Hi guys, continuing with the series, today we're going to explore affirmatives. So I'm going to read to you guys a text that I adapted from real life events. And I want to warn you about it because it is a highly sensitive text. The Nilo Massacre. In December 1991, a paramilitary group and some members of the police arrived to Hacienda El Nilo, a farm located in El Palo Cauca. NASA Indigenous community claimed and occupied the farm for years before the paramilitary group arrived, since it belonged to their ancestors. When the new owners of the farm bought the land, they invited the indigenous people to a meeting because they wanted to establish a dialogue regarding the ownership of the place. However, the paramilitary group slaughtered 21 out of the 80 indigenous people who attended the meeting. According to Orlando Villa, alias Ruben, who was one of the executors of the massacre, the owners of the land planned the crime supported by Fidel Castaño. The following day, more than 5,000 indigenous people occupied the land and stayed permanently. 4 years later, in 1995, Colombian government accepted the responsibility in the massacre, and in 1999, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights concluded that the government broke their promises, such as guaranteeing the repair agreements previously established with the indigenous communities. Some of the material participants in the massacre were never investigated. So here is the source of this text. So we're going to start exploring how to make affirmative statements in past using the verb to be. According to Orlando Villa, alias Ruben, who was one of the executors of the massacre. So as you can notice here, this is the verb to be in past. So what is the structure of an affirmative statement in past? First, we have a subject. So a subject could be a person, it could be an animal, it could even be a thing that is executing the verb of the sentence. So here, the subject is Orlando Villa. It says Orlando Villa was one of the executors of the massacre. And I left this space here because sometimes we can use frequency adverbs in past simple. The verb to be is an irregular verb. This is something we need to have clear in our minds, okay? If you don't remember what is a regular verb, I suggest you check the previous videos in which I explained the difference between irregular verbs and regular verbs. That was the first video in this series, and the second one was about pronunciation, okay? I'm leaving the links in the description. But basically, the past of the verb to be, if it is the singular is was. If it is the singular is was to. And if it is the plural are, the past of are is were. It has just two forms in past simple, but it is an irregular verb. Some of the material participants in the massacre were never investigated. So here we have an example in which the verb to be is plural in past. Subject, some participants, verb to be in past, were. And here in this example we have a frequency adverb, never. Alright, so here I wrote more examples where we use frequency adverbs. Our ancestors were always brave. She was never late. We were usually curious. Those three are examples using frequency adverbs. Look at the position of the frequency adverb. First, we have the subject. Second, the verb. In this case, the verb to be in past. Third, the frequency adverb, if there is any. And last, the complement. Now let's check what is the structure of affirmative statements using verbs that are different to the verb to be. When the new owners of the farm bought the land, they invited the indigenous people to a meeting. So here we have bought. This is an irregular verb. This is the past of buy. Remember to check that video in which I explained the difference between regular and irregular verbs. So this is an irregular verb. And then in the second part of the sentence, we have a regular verb. They invited the indigenous people to a meeting. So we have here subject, for example, new owners. For example, they. Verb in past, bought or invited. Irregular verb and regular verb. And a complement. The land investigated. New owners bought the land investigated. They invited the indigenous people to a meeting. Now let me show you an example where we use frequency adverbs, but in this case with verbs that are different to the verb to be. And here I want you to really pay attention because this is different. Like the organization is different when we use the verb to be than when we use other verbs. Look at this. Mozart always composed great music. Look at the position of the frequency adverb here is second and the verb here is third. First, subject, second, frequency adverb if there is any, and third, the verb in past. Well, last, we have the complement. If we compare when we use the verb to be in past, if we used a frequency adverb, the frequency adverb was third. Here, the frequency adverb is second, is in the second column. This is what I want you to pay close attention. Nikola Tesla never quit his ambitions. So here, the frequency adverb, if we have it, it goes second. If we don't, we have just this general structure, and this is the same whether we have the verb to be or other verbs. It is the same subject, verb, complement. The tricky part comes when we include frequency adverbs in the equation. Good. Here is the comparison. To be, subject, verb in past, this is the verb to be in past, frequency adverb if we have it, and last we have the complement. Versus other verbs. When we have other verbs, we have the subject first, just like when we use the verb to be. Second, we have the frequency adverb. This is the difference that I was mentioning before. Verb in past, here we have the frequency adverb when the verb is not the verb to be. Third, we have the verb in past. And third, here, when we use the verb to be, it was the frequency adverb. Like they switch positions here. And last, which is the same for both, is the complement. Some tips. The past simple structure for affirmative sentences is subject, verb, complement. This is the general structure when we do not have frequency adverbs. It applies the same whether we have the verb to be or other verbs, no problem. When using the verb to be with frequency adverbs, the frequency adverb goes after the verb to be. Just keep that in mind. If you see the verb to be is right next to the subject. Like you cannot separate it from the subject. Imagine that. It is in love with the subject. You can think like that to remember easier. When using other verbs with frequency adverbs, the frequency adverb goes before the verb in past. So those were the tips. I hope you understood and I hope you enjoyed this video. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.